Welcome to Spirits Podcast, episode 20, Midnight Mary, with Grace McCreight.
Our podcast is a 20-something now. They grow up so fast.
We hope you liked our bonus episode last week on jack-o'-lanterns. No one has sent us pictures yet of the gourds that they have carved, so if you have particularly good skills, it can be a pumpkin, it can be a turnip, it can be an acorn squash, who knows? Send it over to us on Twitter.
Catherine Addington did send us a really cute felt pumpkin, though.
She did, really yeah. Cute. I also have those like plastic decorations for my house that are seasonal. That way I don't have to buy actual things.
I have to carve pumpkins for work, and I'm not looking forward to that whatsoever.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. Especially since I hate the smell of pumpkin. Now, pumpkin spice, yes. Regular
Actual pumpkin,
gross.
Ugh.
We have a couple of Twitter shout outs today. Thank you guys for interacting with us on Twitter. We love you guys so much.
I feel like I'm like a grandma who's like, you just call. Just please call. That's how we feel on social media.
Oh, absolutely. Shout out to Eliana Manley, Katie G, Jane Haynes, and Cherry Boy Ryder. Thank you guys.
We also want to shout out some new patrons. Ellie McKenna, sorry Ellie for mispronouncing your name last week. Nancy Thompson, the team at Entwined Podcast, Kelly Quinn, Ross Carter, and Mike Schubert, my friend Shubes, who is the host of the wonderful new show, Potterless Podcast.
Guys, it's so good. I have so much fun with it.
Yeah, so Mike is a 24-year-old man who has never read Harry Potter before, which is kind of amazing in this day and age. And so he is going, chapter by chapter through the books, like 4 or 5 chapters in each episode, with guests who love Harry Potter, including the two of us.
Yes. And thanks to our supporting producer, Leanne Davis. Beautiful as always. Thank you, Leanne. To join this talented, witty, gorgeous patron, click the link in the show notes or find us on Patreon at patreon.com/spiritspodcast. So we recorded this episode pretty close to when we started launching. So you may notice a slightly more tangents, and our interview process isn't super great yet.
A little bit less on track than normal.
But it's a perfect Halloween story, so we couldn't resist, telling it at Halloween.
I know. Well, without further ado, we want to wish you a very happy Halloween and enjoy Spirits Podcast episode 20, Midnight Mary with Grace McCreight. So welcome to Spirits with our guest, Grace McCreight.
Hello.
We're very excited to have you with us.
I'm very excited to be here.
A local folklore myth from the northeast of the United States.
Where we do love the local stuff.
Where we're all from. I didn't say New England because they're very snobby about what's New England and what is not.
I mean, is Connecticut technically New England?
Connecticut is the breadbasket.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That totally false category that we had in our history textbooks.
I think Connecticut, it's like Connecticut's the last one before we fall into those like middle states, like New York.
Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's before you start getting into that argument of like, is New York New England? No.
Yeah.
I think I had a history teacher who like literally like wrote in my paper, it's like New York is not a New England state. I'm like, okay, so
thank you.
Never gonna make that mistake again.
Thank you.
You're not in our club, New York. You can't be part of this.
But from our northerly neighbor, Connecticut.
Yes. So I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, which is a very interesting town.
Home of my favorite pizza place.
Which one?
Pepe's.
Hey, good choice.
Of course. You
That's
gotta
the right
do
answer.
the white clam pizza. So good.
With the
man.
like Gazuza soda.
Fuck yeah. The birch beer one is the one we always go for.
So this is very off topic.
Totally. That's fine.
That's how we roll.
I've been trying to find that ever since I moved to the city. Mm-hmm. The only place I found that has it is like a deli in Astoria.
Yeah.
That I just like walked into and it's like, oh, you have like Fox and Park.
Some random ass place that's just a random deli.
Yeah.
That's like, we were talking about work the other day and someone brought up the idea of celery soda. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Wow.
They're like, celery. I'm like, what the hell is celery? They're like, it's celery soda. I'm like, who would drink that? And then I
celery
Googled it.
Water soda.
And then I Googled it and they're like, oh, celery soda. It's like very popular in like New York, California, and Florida. I'm like, oh, okay. That makes sense. But anyway, sorry. Pizza.
So we're not drinking celery soda.
Unfortunately, we're not eating pizza.
We may later.
Yeah,
but
there's
Grace,
always
tell us what you brought for us to drink today.
So I wanted to go kind of on theme. I love a theme party. I love a theme event.
Great.
And since I'm going to be talking about some witchy stuff, some pacts, some curses, I am at least drinking a Velvet Devil Merlot, which is from Washington, and that is as much as I know about it because I am not a wine connoisseur.
I am, though, but it's one of my favorite distributors and favorite brands. They also make a great Riesling called the House Wine, and it's, like, super, super dope. It's, like, not too sweet for a Riesling and, like, has some really nice, like, kind of, like, stone fruity notes. It's great. Anyway.
I'm glad I made the right choice.
Yes, absolutely
I picked purely on name.
Awesome.
So
That's how you should
on
select
point.
wine.
Connecticut is a spooky place to start off with. I really am into the idea of sort of like New England Gothic.
Oh, yes.
Where, you know, it's this idea sort of like a pre-Walden sense of the woods, and like the woods are a place of darkness and attack, and it's a place where,
Right.
you know, the like American colonists started out and, you know, have this like great fear of the woods and also
Yeah,
this like
threats and
intense religious
violence.
anxiety.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I think like
It's unknowable, right?
yeah.
It's not like
So creepy.
Imagine the temerity of somebody to walk into the woods and say, "This is where I will find myself." Like until
no, terrible idea.
right? Like until the kind of Waldenization, right?
Yeah.
The romanticization of nature with a capital R and N. The woods were a source of, you know, people went missing, attacks came from nowhere.
Bring your gun because you're probably going to die if you go into the woods.
Yeah.
Hide your kids, hide your wives. Yes.
Not kind of creepy, kind of cool. Just creepy.
just super creepy,
Just
not
super
fun.
creepy, super creepy.
The devil definitely lives there. I don't know if you saw The Witch, but like very much like a sense of that.
So good.
So good.
Amanda didn't see The Witch.
Nope.
So
I'm just sitting here quietly.
Like, Puritan family gets banished. I don't remember exactly what happened, but
Yeah.
like some
Were they Quakers or Puritans?
Puritans.
Okay.
And for some reason they're like, let's set up shop literally on the edge of the scary woods that no one's ever
Nope.
been into.
Yeah, so they
Maybe,
get
maybe property values were lower, which I can understand.
Yeah.
understandable. So like, and then like shit goes down, and like,
Yeah.
you know, everyone blames everyone for all the shit that goes down, and then like they turn
Classic.
against each other, and then,
Classic.
like everyone's speaking to the devil.
The
Basically,
woods
that's
brings
it.
out the worst in us.
Yes.
Right.
As it does. Wrapping that all back up, like, yeah, Connecticut's a spooky place. I think it's like, it still remains that kind of like weird sense of like beginnings of America because, you know, especially in New Haven, because a lot of the buildings are like from when Yale was first built and they're
Yeah.
old. Some of them are like purposefully made to look really old because they wanted to look like Cambridge, which in
Classic,
1600 was
classic colonial America.
Yeah.
Let's
Are we
name-
talking Boston Cambridge or like regular Cambridge?
like no like
Okay.
OG Cambridge?
normal Cambridge.
My go-to is my hometown. Well, not my
No, I
hometown. My
Your adopted hometown.
My adopted hometown.
Yeah, no,
Boston,
classic
Mass.
America. Like, let's not only name everything after good old Mother England, but also make it look like
it.
Greco-Roman revival,
So
you know,
bad.
townhouses and whatever.
It was like to the point where like when they built Yale, they were burying the roof tiles in like the dirt on the beach.
Oh shit!
To make it look
yeah, to make them look aged.
Whoa!
It's like we gotta look like
that.
we're 300 years
Original
old.
hipster.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Distressed roof tiles.
Yeah,
Sold for $200 a title.
Tile.
there was actually a
tile.
building where they like poured acid down the side of it to make it look old, but they made it structurally unstable, so they had to tear it down and build it again.
Wow.
Assholes.
Wow.
It's like,
that's
really?
amazing.
You care this much about it? Like
New England,
Cambridge
man.
isn't gonna respect you, even if you look old timey.
You're in the new world.
Your town name is literally New Haven. Get your shit together.
You're not Haven. Don't think you are.
Right. Embrace it. Embrace it.
In New Haven, there are like unsurprisingly a lot of cemeteries. There are some that are just like in the heart of downtown, and there are some that are sort of further out in the suburbs, and there are a bunch that are just like paved over and, you know, buried by modern construction.
And as we know from Poltergeist, never a good thing.
Not a great idea.
Amanda hasn't seen that one yet.
Nope.
Oh, you are.
I'm so much ahead of
Wait for that audio extra, folks.
I did though go to school at NYU, which the campus is Washington Square Park in downtown Manhattan, which is a literal potter's field, where they just poured in, you know, wheelbarrow fulls the bodies of people too poor to afford actual burials.
Bodies
Oh
on
my
bodies
God.
on bodies.
Yes, recently, as in like 6 months ago, they were kind of renovating a section of the park, and they've sort of done it in pizza slices, you know, so that most of the park remains open. And however, underneath this pizza slice was a literal mausoleum, and so
Oh my God.
and so it was a really interesting question of like, you know, do we explore this hallway and crypt further, potentially damaging the bodies, and like unleashing spiritual havoc.
Like
I say yes to that because I want to see the film rights for that.
Right, no. I too want to see the French catacomb. Like, I want to see the extent of it. And I guess in this day, you could just send a little BB-8 robot with a little camera on its head, to
Adorable
see it.
BB-8,
But the official city policy is as soon as we hit bodies, we back up and rebury it.
Is that really
serious? That is really the policy.
I like that, but like I don't like that.
I know.
very respectful.
But like also I want that like modern day Indiana Jones
Right.
bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like in a movie where like a horror movie where you see in the prelude like the woman's hope chest or something like contains something creepy. She goes, "Let me just ignore that forever." And then 30 years later in the attic, there's some kind of creepy shit starting.
What movie are you thinking of?
A general movie.
Okay.
Like, isn't Jumanji about a children's game that goes wrong?
Yes, but they dump it in the river afterward. It's not like
smart.
it's just,
That's
and
smart.
then they uncover it because they dig it out of the river. It's like
or
literally unburied, like the bodies in Washington Square Park.
Yeah, or like any movie where they're like, this thing is creepy, puts it in the closet 40 years later, like it comes back to wreak havoc.
I feel like that's
alright.
kind of like the beginning of Cabin in the Woods, where they're like
True.
looking at all the artifacts and they're like, "Oh, what is this like mysterious old thing?" Let's
Or like
hold it
Evil
and say
Dead.
the inscription.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a
Let's read it
terrible
3
idea.
times. No, please don't.
Nuh-uh.
Okay, like straight up, we haven't gotten to your myth at
Okay.
all.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No problem.
Go ahead.
So, many cemeteries in New Haven, one of which is Evergreen. It's located on sort of like the south west side of town. It is about a mile from the house where I grew up, and so we heard a lot of stories about it, and it was sort of like, as cemeteries tend to be, kind of a teen hangout sometimes.
Of course.
Also, I've noticed that like a lot of cemeteries have like tree-related names.
Oh yeah, there's so many
Yes.
evergreens and like
Like
Willows.
Pine Crest
Ashes.
is the one that's on Long
Near us.
Island. That's like the really big one. And it's just like
Greenwood
you
down
know
in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
continuing to live on. I'm like, not really the point of it,
I
but
kind of
okay.
appreciate the subliminal messaging.
yeah,
A
like
little
you're
bit.
becoming a tree.
Yeah, it's very pleasant.
Poetic.
So what's up in your Evergreen Cemetery?
So, in our generically named cemetery, there is one headstone that gets a lot more attention than all the rest of them. It's sort of like a pink granite, and I first knew about it because of sort of like that middle school storytelling where you explore
Bloody Mary, whatever,
Bloody
yeah,
Mary,
yeah.
that kind of thing. And there actually is like an interactive element to this.
Ooh,
It's the story of Midnight Mary, not Bloody Mary.
love it.
Always a Mary though.
Great
Yeah.
start.
Just a go-to Christian name.
Yeah, I guess everybody was like a Mary or a
Yeah.
John or
Well,
something.
or an
right, Mary's
Elizabeth.
like
Good point.
Generic woman's
Yeah.
name, yeah.
So Mary lived in the early 19th century. She was just a hardworking woman who lived in Connecticut her whole life. She was a New Haven resident her whole life.
Nice.
Nothing exceptional. But one day in 1872, she just fell into a coma.
Oh no.
And out of nowhere,
Wasn't the wasting disease because that's what everyone had back then.
just turned pale.
consumption, tuberculosis.
God,
if you want to get technical.
Late stage consumption.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sudden onset consumption.
And so her family called for a doctor. They checked her out. She wasn't waking up. And then at exactly midnight, they couldn't sense her breathing anymore.
They put a feather over her mouth.
And they didn't see it
It's the
rippling.
mirror.
Right.
You have to
Oh,
put the
damn
mirror
it,
under
the
the
mirror
nose.
didn't fog.
God damn it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, they did everything you do at that point.
Right.
Which is
Bury
bury
someone.
you.
yeah.
And in going through Mary's quarters and, getting rid of all of her stuff, they found all of these strange charms.
Ooh.
Sort of
Mary.
weird bundles. And a book that no one could read.
Most suspicious of
Grimoire.
all.
Don't keep that in your real home.
Like, women reading is suspicious enough.
Yeah, that's suspect enough.
Having a creepy one that has a bunch of spells in it.
Exactly.
Not so
Secondly,
much.
being in a foreign tongue. No good.
This whole story is very suspect also because no one in Connecticut had been accused of being a witch for like straight up 200 years at this
Well, it's
point.
also
she's
Connecticut.
bringing it
Like
back.
they had other shit to deal
Yeah,
with.
she had
bringing
some
it back.
problems. And so, after they discover all this, the family kind of hushes it up. They don't talk about it very much,
As one
obviously.
does.
Naturally.
Why would you do that?
Don't air your shame.
Gotta
Seems
protect
like
that honor of the
Be
family.
a New Englander and
Great
bury
way
it.
to never get invited to a wedding ever again. But her sister kept having these dreams about Mary that were just like very violent, of her sister like screaming in this dark room.
Oh.
And And eventually she thought, this is a sign from beyond the grave.
Right.
Obviously. And they excavated her grave, and they found her face, like, contorted into this, like, horrible grimace.
Oh, my God.
And scratch marks.
My favorite!
And they had buried her alive. Which is the biggest nightmare.
Oh,
Totally.
my God.
So I've done, like, a lot of, like, research on, like, that kind of shit where it's, like, they buried people alive and, like, they thought they were vampires or something like that. And, like, they want to, like, a lot of researchers say that it was, like, people who had diabetes and went into, like, diabetic shock.
Oh, my gosh.
And then they bury those people and they, like, wake up from the diabetic shock, like, naturally.
Right.
And they're like, shit, fuck.
Oh, did you know George Washington, our first and greatest president, yes,
except for the slave owning part, but
that's based purely on Chris Jackson's depiction of him.
Absolutely.
Waited 2 days per his instructions in, like, his family estate. He was like, hey, servants, some of whom are slaves and problematic, wait 2 days after I die.
Oh, yeah.
To bury me.
Please make sure I'm dead.
I fully expect him to do that.
Expressly
already.
in
I would
his
put
will.
that on my will. I would put that in my will. Like, I do not want to, like, that's like a shit
Put you on
show.
ice. Let you age a little bit more.
Oh, but, like, I feel like in modern culture that's not as big a deal because, like, they cut you open, like, and do...
Yeah, they would know.
Right.
At a certain point.
Like, they
also,
just
like,
would.
medical testing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have to do that shit
Yeah.
now. Like,
Well, that's terrifying and
That's-
my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
thank you for that.
So, I do have a tangential story about
Tell us.
We love
dying.
them. Go ahead.
So, one of my, like, family legends is that my grandpa grew up in, like, very rural Georgia in the 20s, in the Depression. Mm-hmm. And there was someone in their family or someone in their community, I don't really remember, who had died, and they were holding a wake for this person. And my grandpa, like, as a little 12-year-old boy or whatever, had the night shift.
Oh, boy.
Also, I love that there's shifts starting.
Yeah.
Fucking
The night watch,
So
right.
he's just alone in a room.
Like that, but that's not a
with this
thing
dead
nowadays,
woman.
you know
Well,
what
it's
I
not,
mean?
not a thing in our tradition, but, like,
No.
Jewish traditions,
Yes,
for example,
right.
you still
You still
keep
shiva
shiva
or
of
something
the
like
body.
that.
Shiva. And
Right.
I think that's, like, very important as a way to, like, process grief and whatever.
yeah.
But, he was alone as this little boy in this room with a body.
My
and
God.
somehow rigor mortis set in a way that it sat up.
Oh, my God.
And so the body sat up while he was in the room.
That's like some like really convenient rigor mortis too.
Yeah.
Like there's
Right.
no like the body should be stiff. There's no reason you go whoosh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I have no idea how
tendons-
much this was elaborated through
Tendons
the
tighten, so that's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
But, like,
that's not good.
it's so scarring.
No. I'm sure it, like, moved a little bit, and in his, like,
Oh, yeah.
child's
of
mind, that turned
course.
into, like, and then it stood up and danced with me, and, like...
The devil went into the body
like,
and started dancing.
Any amount of movement in a dead body is, like, extremely
No.
it's too much
disturbing.
movement.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Not okay with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what happened to Mary's body? What did they think and do?
So,
So
they
vampire?
realized, obviously, Mary was a witch, from all
Right.
of this
That's
stuff.
all. That's the only thing that explains it.
And so, they reburied her. Obviously, typical New England, you keep hushing it up. You don't talk about your witch sister that you buried alive by accident.
No.
I was just going to say, I'm surprised they didn't burn her, but I get it. I
But
get
she's dead
why-
already.
Yeah.
So like
It's already like a metropolitan area. It's a little hard to burn people.
Right, like you want to bury your shame and not air it for the community to see.
Not literally air it out.
Yes.
though if you look at like vampire myth that came over like during that like time period in the Americas, what they would do is they would like cut out the like heart and like liver or whatever and burn those, and then like that, then everything would be okay.
But she's dead. No more
Yeah,
clawing.
She's dead.
She wasn't making
She's
anyone
definitely
else
dead at this
die,
point.
so like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
the threat has been contained.
Well, hold on.
So they think.
has
they
it been
think.
contained?
Ha ha ha.
So, so it's kind of this like neighborhood rite of passage to visit Mary's grave at midnight, partially because she died at midnight, and partially because her grave says, at high noon, just from and about to renew her daily work, in her full strength of body and mind, Mary E. Hart, having fallen prostrate, remained unconscious until she died at midnight, October 15th, 1872. And above that, in sort of like an arch of letters, says, the people shall be troubled at midnight and pass away, which is a line from Job. And this makes sense in the context of Job, of like, you have suffered for the Lord, and in that kind of, but everyone, the legend around this was obviously, if you stand on her grave at midnight, you're gonna die.
Because ain't nobody got time to figure out what Job is talking about.
Job is a sad book to start off with. It's you know.
Teenagers are like, forget the spiritual
It says
connotation.
midnight, we're gonna suffer. We should go hang out over there.
Wow. And also, how Puritan to make your epitaph. She was working really hard and then fell down and died.
And then she was in a coma and then she died.
She tried really hard, but like against all odds,
Yeah.
she sadly died.
Oh, yeah. And so, like, it's a thing where you go to her grave at midnight, especially on Halloween.
Cool.
Obviously.
I would do it like on the October 16th or whatever you just said.
Yeah.
Because like, wouldn't
Yes.
that be more exciting? Why do you have to
Just
go on
'cause it's
Halloween?
October.
Every night in October. That's the best way to do
Every
it.
goddamn night. I don't care if it's a Tuesday. I don't care if you have like a midterm tomorrow.
We're going to be having
you
dinner
go.
at the grave every
Exactly.
night. You better be there.
Town meeting.
So the sort of legend that grew up around it was, you know, you don't stand on this grave, but obviously you do.
Right.
And apparently in the mid-'80s, New Haven was a very different kind of place than it is now. It had a lot of the like urban blight that a lot of places did. And so the extension of the story is that there were a bunch of teenagers driving around the cemetery and they managed to hit her grave and crack it.
No.
And
Bad.
one by one, every 7 years on the anniversary of that day, they died one by one.
No bueno. How many people were there? So like we can map out like which one was the last one to
So
die.
there were 3.
Okay.
So we would have had, like, say
witchy
we're at
number.
1980. We got
Right,
87,
94,
94,
01.
01.
01.
Okay. That
So
works.
pretty recent, but
Still.
you know it's coming for you. It's like Final Destination.
Exactly.
Or like, you know, like the Mummy's Curse or like shit like
Yeah.
that. Be like,
You
oh
just-
shit.
wow.
When is your time coming?
I'm gonna get eaten by scarabs.
Right, or when there's 2 of you left, which is next. Like, you don't...
Oh yeah, I'd be like,
Oh, yeah.
I'd be like, I will push you in front of a truck on that anniversary, buddy. Like, I'm not dying first.
But then some kind of shit would happen where, like, the person would be bypassed by the truck and then you would then be hit by someone
Yeah.
swerving away from the truck.
Probably.
I know how myths work, Julia. You can't change the
damn.
timeline.
You can't just make it work for you.
No.
No,
That's
no,
true.
no.
How it works.
That's pretty eerie, dude.
Yeah, and I was an indoor kid, so I never actually did this.
Much like Amanda.
We're all compatriots here.
I was
It's fine.
an outdoor kid.
You were.
we were bookish.
Right.
We were smart.
We're both fair-skinned.
Yeah, we can't just be going outside all the time.
No. Please.
I did Lulabelle shit, and I'll tell you about that story at some point. But
I don't know what you're referencing.
that's
so.
Lulabelle?
that's the Oakdale Telepo story, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of it.
So what is the modern state of this myth?
So this is pretty much, I mean, what I told you is pretty much the modern state of the myth. I left Connecticut when I was 18. And this was still sort of the version that I've been hearing. I did a little bit of like digging into sort of the like Atlas Obscura page for this, and it seems like it's still pretty much the same thing. It kind of varies, like sort of, was it, you know, a group of teenagers? Was it a group of someone like driving drunk who hit the stone? And apparently they did actually repair her headstone at some point, which is probably where that came from.
Probably. Also, like, were they driving through the cemetery, or is it her
I
thing,
like to drive in a
just
cemetery.
very close to like the edge of the cemetery?
I mean,
and they,
some
like,
of
drove through
the
a fence?
headstones are close to the road. And
Right,
there's
yeah.
often there's
No,
not
I mean,
curbs.
like, right. If there's like
right.
a fence or something, like if they drove through it and hit her headstone, like I would
Yeah.
understand that. But if it's like in the middle of the cemetery,
Just, like,
that's
the
a whole
car,
different story.
Like gets air and then
Oh,
lands
yeah,
only
yeah.
on
over
that
the
one.
fence, straight into the headstone. I think that's pretty solid.
Wow, that's pretty scary though. Like, imagine if, you know, you were just in a late night, you know, whatever, skidding accident in a cemetery for whatever reason, doing whatever you want to do in the car, and then you look and see which headstone you hit, and oh shit, it's the one witch in the cemetery.
Yeah.
That's great.
Also, I'm pretty sure you like wouldn't be keeping tabs on like who's the witch in the
No, I
cemetery.
know. As I thought that, I
Just
was like,
keep
the
an eye
last
on the
thing
one
I would do
witch.
is look at what headstone it was. I would just drive away immediately.
It's like, no. The worrisome thing of me as like a very like sheltered teenager, especially knowing this story, not fully believing it, but like kind of being a little too into spooky stuff to fully discount it.
Why would you risk it?
Oh yeah. I had friends who would like hook up in the cemetery.
No. no.
And I was just like, no, don't do it.
Also, like, a cemetery is the least
not
sexy
cool.
place to be.
Yeah.
Slash if you happen to, conceive an accidental pregnancy or an unplanned pregnancy.
How do you explain that?
Demon baby. Come on, people.
Oh, yeah.
There's no
Also,
better
you totally
way.
have to name it after the person who you had sex in
their
like
grave.
grave on.
Yeah.
Like, whatever that headstone name is, like, if it's like, Prudence Gladwell. You're naming that child Prudence Gladwell. I don't care who you are.
This is my daughter, Good Wife Samson.
Exactly. Yeah, Goody, whatever, Brown.
Goody Proctor.
Oh, Goody Proctor. I just saw
Proctor.
the Crucible on Broadway, guys.
So
Oh
good.
my god, I'm so
dude.
jealous.
Yeah, but also like teenagers with power, and like and making myth and worldview out of whatever they have at their
Yeah.
disposal.
You solidly watched like 2 really morbid plays in a row.
The Crucible and...
We saw American Psycho on Monday.
Okay, that's,
which was
that's
like
intense experience.
kind of going back to cemetery stuff. There's a great like not story but like historical reference in Boston where for a really long time there was a lot of like not grave robbing but like headstones disappeared. And so they couldn't figure out where
grave
they
robbing.
I mean, yes,
probably
but it's
part
not
of the
like it's not
grave.
like where they're like peeling jewelry off dead bodies.
It's like grave larceny.
Okay, sure. And they couldn't figure out where these these marble tablets were going that are the gravestones until they
Because what's it gonna become? Like a single bathroom vanity?
well until they figured out some guy bought a thing of bread and noticed that there were words on the bottom of the bread. Bakers and pizza guys were stealing them to use in their
course it's
ovens.
an oven.
Oh my god.
Wow.
And then you just some 1700s gravestone was being used to cook pizza.
It's like a charcoal
God.
so you
etching,
ordered
but in
pizza
bread.
to go, and there was just
Goody Proctor.
Here lies Goody Proctor.
Oh, no.
Died in 1789.
Just like a little hint of a ghost.
And
I'd be down.
and
Ghost pizza?
if you look
so
at
good.
the 1700s gravestones, they all have the skulls and crossbones because that was very the Puritan Protestant thing at that point. That was their ideal of apocalypticism. It's embrace the death that's coming to you and make it beautiful.
Sure.
So you just see flowers and skulls and then the name of the person who died on the bottom of your pizza.
Amazing.
So it's just so on point. I love
amazing.
it.
That is amazing.
It's so good.
New England Gothic, gotta love it.
Gotta love that New England Gothic.
Little at the bottom of your New Haven style burnt pizza.
Love it.
Wow, bringing it back around to pizza, guys.
Yeah.
Good job.
That coal
With the
fire
motif
pizza from
there.
Pepe's. Go visit.
It's so good.
Oh, so good.
The line is worth it.
That clam pizza.
Fuck
man.
Sally's.
Salad.
Spirits was created by Julia Shafini and me, Amanda McLaughlin. It's edited by Eric Schneider with music by Kevin MacLeod and visual design by Allison Wakeman.
Subscribe to Spirits on your preferred podcast app to make sure you never miss an episode. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr at Spirits Podcast.
On our Patreon page, patreon.com/spiritspodcast, you can sign up for exclusive content like behind-the-scenes photos, audio extras, director's commentary, blooper reels, and beautiful recipe cards with custom drink and snack pairings.
If you like the show, please share with your friends and leave us a review on iTunes. It really does help.
Thank you so much for listening. Till next time.